start recording. Let's take a look at right space here. We can see 362 content. Okay, and we've covered JavaScript, we've covered the exam. I'm almost done grading the exam, so hopefully by tonight everyone's exam will be graded. Jquery, right? So this homework is due tonight, due February 25th, right? So this is due tonight. And I think I gave some examples of this on Monday or Tuesday. So hopefully that helped. Now, I've started a new topic, which is Jquery Ui, as you know. You should be excited that although we will continue to look at other things related to client-side scripting, we will begin probably next week also server-side scripting. So that way, as I said, because of the term project, I want to make sure we start PHP and everything else. So we'll be starting this hopefully next week, I think. But we still have a few other topics, obviously, related to client side that we will cover. I think that's actually the best approach, kind of in parallel. So here we have Jquery Ui. This is the topic that we started this week. So I believe I wrapped up Jquery, then I went over Jquery Ui. Jquery Ui is just really straightforward. You basically saw the entire pipeline of Jquery Ui, which is the links, and then just adding controls that are more presentable now, right? That we used a calendar, right? So we created a calendar. So I will do a few more examples of Jquery Ui on Monday, just to kind of wrap up Jquery Ui. But today what I'm going to do is, for those of you, I already saw that some of you already finished the Jquery homework, great calculator, and have already submitted. So then today I'm just going to assign the new homework, which is Jquery Ui, which you can see here. This one is pretty easy, so it will be, okay. It will be due, that looks strange. Huh. Okay, so Jquery Ui is a very straightforward homework, I think. So it'll be due a week from today. Let me just, I don't know why it opened.
Professor, you have to go to it and then view it as a page, or you can do it like that too. But if you go into it, actually click ITF 362 Lab 5, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
And then hit view as page.
Yeah, why did it, okay, that looks more like, so I guess I was just zoomed in or something. It looks strange, not used to that. All right, thank you. So this is the new homework, right? So this will be due a week from today. Okay, so for those of you that have already finished, and this one involves a little bit of more research, but I will provide some additional examples. But as you can see, Jquery Ui is pretty straightforward. So this is, your distributed application web application development, dynamic web application development homework, Jquery Ui. So here again, it's just the objective is to make you more familiar with other tools that you can use as you have seen already. Really, this class should be like integrated, technology, something like that in the name, because it's really a lot of technologies, right? That we have a lot of tools that we have available. And if you do any kind of web development in the future, you will constantly be, every project might be different as far as technologies. So in this one, we will just explore. We will just do this one lab on Jquery Ui. So to understand how Jquery Ui works, basically to learn to use Jquery Ui on the client side, to learn to develop an appealing client-side application using Jquery Ui, right? Or to maintain it, if you find websites like this. So the task in this lab is based upon the previous labs, 3 and 4. So you're going to take, you know, the jQuery, obviously, previous lab, and you're going to revise it so that the jQuery Ui will be used. Okay, you should use as much jQuery as possible. You've already started to do that, of course, even though many tasks can be done in JavaScript alone. As you know, you can do a lot with JavaScript also, the same things, but here you're just practicing one of these tools. So here are the requirements. Find and use the tabs widget, okay? The tabs widget. So as I usually do on Monday, I will provide some more hints, okay, of how to use these things, but you can get started with it already. So find and use a tabs widget to group assessments, okay? So remember, this is still a great calculator. And so you will have, you know, your assessments or assignments, labs, like, you know, labs, exams, etc. Right? And you're just going to take the previous code that's due tonight, and now you're going to try to group it by tab. So what would make sense is that you have a tab for labs, a tab for you know, quizzes, a tab for exams, and so on. Okay. So find and use a tabs widget to group assessments. That is, all labs should be included in a single tab, and all quizzes should be in another tab, and so on. There should be a place to display the total percentage points and the grade. So that, remember, you have to show like 85, and that's a B, right? So make sure you do that. And, you know, I leave this to your imagination and creativity, right? So that's one of the, you know, certainly, you know, dynamic web development like this is never boring, right? So that's certainly one thing that, you know, is fun. You can always be very creative, imaginative. So that's a good thing. For each text box, please provide a custom tooltip to inform the user what is expected to be entered into the text box, right? So again, I leave that to you to kind of think about it, but, you know, obviously look it up on jQuery Ui. The calculation of the total percentage points and the grade should be done on the fly without using any buttons. So hopefully that's already from this homework assignment due tonight. That's already solved. And I gave you some examples of that on Tuesday. The calculation of the total percentage points and grade should be done. You know, that I've said. Number 4, include a date picker. So I've already provided an example for that one. So include a date picker to record dates for the assessments and provide the option of using a slider control to assign grades, okay? You still need to have a default value in there, but now you can type in the data, or you can just do a slider. So a slider is like, you know, like the scroll bar, right? So you grab it and then you move it up and down, and then the grade changes. So that's what you have to do. So this, you know, provide the option of using a slide controller to assign the grades. Additionally, include a progress bar to indicate the percentage of grades entered for a given semester. That would actually be nice for me to have on Brightspace, because sometimes on Brightspace, like right now, I'm grading your exams and I always have to go back and kind of count how many I have left. I wish that they would tell me where I am, but, you know, they don't do that. So anyway, you can do that as far as your you know, assignment. Indicate percentage grade, include a progress bar to indicate percentage of grades entered for the given semester. Please use a cookie to store what was entered. So that's similar to what you did before, you know, store the data. And then, of course, as usual, you should have a separate CSS file for any styles you need for this application, web app, and a separate JS file for all your JavaScript, jQuery, etc. Deliverables, as usual, an electronic copy of your lab report, along with your code, HTML, CSS, and JS, submitted on Brightspace. Only use zip, okay? No .rar or anything like that, just zip. You're just slowing down you know, the grading and your grade, you know, when you do those things. All right, so, and of course, as you know, disregard, yeah, I'm definitely using Windows, but I'm using, as you know, Mozilla Firefox. Okay, so definitely always check on Mozilla. so that I, you know, just in case, because that's what I will use. All right, so that is basically the assignment. This will be due today. So tonight is jQuery is due. That means that jQuery UI can be due a week from today. So let's go ahead and also add the assignment already on here. So I'm going to do homework jQuery UI. Okay. This will be due. So today is 25th. Wow. Almost March already. So March 4th, right? By 10 p.m. But it'll stay open. So it'll open up. It's already open now, and it'll stay open until the 6th. I believe after that we have a spring break, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so here, just complete the attached Word document to implement your grade calculator using jQuery UI. So this is the new one coming up next week as we also start getting into the server side. That's what I'm going to talk about today, some of the things that we're going to need to cover, okay? Because really, at this point, when I finish jQuery UI, I feel like we've covered, a lot of client side. Now we're ready for kind of a phase 2 of the class, server side. We're going to be switching gears a little bit on the things that we need to do. Okay, but let me just finish this one. So complete the attached Word document. Complete the attached Word document to implement your grade calculator using jQuery UI. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that should be pretty clear. Homework, that's an easy homework, actually. It's one of the easiest ones. All right. And okay, so now let's go to table of contents again. As you can see, I still want to cover more JavaScript on the client side, more JavaScript on the server side with Node.js, a little bit at least, just kind of, again, just to show you. And there's a few other technologies that we're going to take a look at as well, such as, these technologies of, or these tools, as you want to call them, of Angular, React, and Vue. All right, so we'll take a look. I will give you a brief introduction to all of those. You guys should be able to, just enough that you should be able to know how to get started with them. But that will be alongside PHP, okay? So PHP is going to become the new theme going forward. So currently this is week 7. So next week is week 8, and that's roughly the middle of the semester. So as you can see, we spent the middle of the semester kind of on client side. The rest of the semester will be now more server side, but obviously we still need to use HTML, CSS, and some client side things that we've done before and things we're going to do going forward. So a couple of things that I want you to do. So now, before I move on, are there any questions about the jQuery UI homework?
I don't have any, at least.
No, right? Okay, good. So now let's take a look at these two modules that you see here, LAMP and PHP. All right, so I just want to point out a couple of things. Let's look at LAMP. So the first one, LAMP, if I click on it, it is obviously I'll talk about this formally in the lecture, but LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So it's the Linux stack, if you will, for web development on the server side, right? So we are now going to be using Linux, okay? So you can download a Ubuntu Linux server, whichever one you want. So you could use the Seed Labs one. I would actually recommend that you just download a fresh copy, and I'll tell you why. Because the Seed Labs is configured with certain things. You actually want to have your own, more clean, if you will, more from scratch VM. Also, there's 2004, 1804, 1604. For what we're going to be doing, we don't have to do a lot of sysadmin on this VM, except to make sure that you install LAMP. So usually in Linux, installing LAMP is as simple as sudo apt-get install LAMP. Okay. There's a couple of on my website. There is a link to a 1604 VM. There's a link to the Seed VM, but I leave it to you guys. Get a Ubuntu VM. Going forward, when I start with PHP now, we're going to be working on Linux. Okay. So we'll be doing the Linux, as you know, is one of the most utilized web servers in the world, right? So it uses Apache. If you look, you can look up the statistics; they're pretty high. So obviously, it's free. Any website, any cloud service like AWS, GoDaddy, whatever, they'll provide a lot of Linux servers out there. It's kind of their main business, right? So you can always get them pretty cheap. And they give you an SSH type of a thing. They give you something called cPanel. cPanel is a tool that a lot of them have for really nice management of websites. At some point, I might show you that. Obviously, you have to pay for that for our purposes. We're not going to be using it, but I'll show you that tool. It's really nice. We'll look at it a little bit later for cloud, in developing in the cloud kind of thing. But for our purposes, because the project, you're going to build your own website, I suggest get a fresh copy of 16, 18, or 20 Ubuntu, and then install LAMP, okay? And then from there, we are going to be, I'll show you guys where we're going to put the files. Usually they go in var ww, and, and then how we're going to run them, et cetera, because remember that the code now will be running on a server. So the idea is that you, from your browser, would type some IP in the browser or localhost for your own machine, and then get to the websites that you're developing. So the focus is not so much on sysadmin of that, but just on PHP itself, okay? And other JavaScript server side, et cetera. So I've provided some materials here that you can start looking at. For instance, if you click on LAMP setup, this is not a tutorial, okay? This is not a tutorial. This is a document just for you guys to read, okay? So, read through this document. It'll give you some insight into how you set up everything, okay? So how you set up LAMP, for instance, right? So let's say you download some code, and then you can take a look at how you get some scripts maybe for the databases. You guys already know how to do this. At some point later in the semester, I will give you these so that we can easily create a database for our homework. Then, of course, how to manage SQL, right? How to create tables, etc., via the terminal. We are also going to look at, obviously, you can use Phpmyadmin. You can see that there, Phpmyadmin. That's a very nice one. This shows you the configuration, right? There's Phpmyadmin, which is really great for databases. I'm sure you guys have used Phpmyadmin, right? You've used it before, some of you? Guys?
Once or twice.
Yeah, once.
Yeah, so you are somewhat familiar with it. And, it's just a really nice tool for managing databases. Okay, so, you can see here, obviously, this is not a database class, so you will be expected to be able to do simple things related to SQL queries. So that's the MySQL part. And then this, don't worry about it. This just gets into data. This is actually PHP code. Obviously, I have to explain all of this to you. So this will happen during the lectures. As I said, this is just a document for you to start reading about LAMP and how LAMP would work. If you want to, this is not homework either, okay? It's just for you to practice. So if you want to practice with your server how to configure things, I have provided this document, and I've also provided an example piece of an example zip file here. And this zip file just has a lot of PHP files. They're already written in MVC. They're for an e-commerce site. So then you guys can practice. Okay, if I wanted to set up this website on my server, you would use this file and kind of read up this document to get but this is just to get a feel for it. And then of course I will do a lecture about this more formally on Monday. Okay, so that's LAMP, and that's just because I want to talk about the environment. And then after that, obviously, comes PHP. You can see that here. So there's, the homework, the slides, all the things that we, I'll start to introduce, formally server-side scripting, PHP, etc. And remember, all these things are always changing, but we're going to take a look at them. Okay, so that's the plan going forward. Okay, so I'm not sure if this will start next week. It's possible. I just have to wrap up jQuery UI. We'll just see how we go on time with that one. We have plenty of time now. The rest of the semester have to go over this. And the way that I do this is we're gonna build a single website. Okay. So I will do examples. So usually I'll do like little examples here and there. But then we're going to be building a website. Remember that this website now will involve HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, any other tools that we look at, jQuery UI, but also it'll have the server-side component. We're going to use MVC model view control of how we're going to organize the files in a specific way. Eventually, I'm going to introduce database MySQL connections. We're going to look at a couple of ways that has been done, and then PDO and all that, and then user accounts. So usually by the time we get to user accounts, you have a website that has a menu, and then it has a login, and you're logged in or logged out. It has some redirection involved, and then obviously you can navigate through the pages, and it's database driven. So in a sense, we are building a lot of the code, and it's all written in MVC format, and we have written a lot of the code for your term project. Do you guys see that? You see how your project will involve PHP, user accounts, databases, MySQL, PHP, and every other technology that we have seen so far, okay? The only thing is you have to come up with the theme, right? So you have to decide what you're going to do. You're going to either create like a social media site. A lot of students always want to do something like that, or an e-commerce site, or any kind of site. But remember, you are building this from scratch, consistent with what we are covering in the course. Does that make sense, guys? Are there any questions?
I think so.
All right, so that being said, then what I want you to do now is form your groups of 3, please. I know we started this on Tuesday. Okay, so that's basically all the content that I have for today. I've assigned a new homework, right? And now I'm just going to leave it open for you guys if you have any questions about the homework assignment tonight or this new homework assignment. But in particular, right now, I want to make sure everyone's in a group. So let me just pause the recording. We don't need to record this.